In the farthest, coldest fringes of interstellar space, where the sun is little more than a faint whisper of light, an aging machine built by human hands has just sent back a message no one was ready to hear. Voyager 2, launched in 1977, was never meant to last this long or speak in riddles. It crossed the planets, pierced the heliopause in 2018, and became our lone scout in the vast unknown. But while the world moved on, Voyager 2 kept transmitting. And last month, its signal arrived corrupted, fragmented, and laced with patterns that were never part of its programming. At first, the data looked like random noise from a dying spacecraft. But buried inside that corruption was a sequence so precise, so urgent, and so predictive that scientists froze in place. Voyager 2 hadn't glitched. It had warned us. Voyager 2's remaining instruments, now reduced to just 3 after recent power-saving shutdowns of the plasma science and low-energy charged particle systems in late 2024 and early 2025, are still exquisitely tuned to the interstellar medium. They measure magnetic field strength, plasma wave oscillations, and cosmic ray fluxes with sensitivities honed over decades. Yet in the most recent downlink through the Deep Space Network, engineers noticed an abrupt deviation, a cascade of binary errors that should have been unrecoverable. The error rate spiked every 7.8 seconds, a rhythm that matched no known onboard clock or thermal cycle. Initial diagnosis pointed to radiation damage or dwindling RTG power. But when raw telemetry was replayed through modern error correction algorithms, the errors resolved into coherent mathematical structures, repeating primes, Fibonacci cascades, and fractal encodings of density gradients in the very local interstellar medium. This was no hardware failure. This was deliberate structure masquerading as corruption. Using multi-site triangulation across the Deep Space Network antennas in California, Spain, and Australia, mission analysts pinned the anomaly's origin not to Voyager 2's onboard computer, but to an external modulation arriving milliseconds before the downlink. The signal had ridden Voyager's own carrier wave, imprinting itself like a shadow. Doppler analysis revealed the modulating source was closing at 0.12% the speed of light, adjusting its vector in microbursts that defied simple ballistic motion. Newtonian simulations collapsed. Relativistic corrections fared no better. The object, or field, whatever it was, appeared to be surfing a previously undetected interstellar current, using plasma density waves as propulsion. And it was aimed not at the probe, but through it, toward the heliosphere's flank. Voyager 2 had become an unwilling relay, its corrupted transmission the first clear alarm that something massive and fast was bearing down on the entire solar system. Things grew stranger when astrophysicists fed the embedded sequences into quantum pattern recognition models. The data didn't just describe local plasma turbulence, it projected forward, simulating the compression of the heliopause by an incoming shock front. Within 18 months, according to the embedded forecasts, galactic cosmic ray flux at Earth could surge by 340%, enough to disrupt satellite electronics, strip ozone layers in polar regions, and elevate surface radiation levels beyond anything recorded in human history. The patterns included precise coordinates relative to Voyager's current position at roughly 142 astronomical units, marking the shock front's leading edge. These were not random cosmic ray hits. They were a map, a timeline, and a warning encoded in the very corruption that should have rendered the signal useless. Voyager 2 wasn't failing to communicate. It was fighting to deliver a message it was never designed to carry. Then came the confirmation that turned unease into dread. A second corrupted burst arrived 41 hours later, this time carrying reconstructed waveforms of the interstellar magnetic field, twisted into helical structures never observed in nature. When overlaid with historical Voyager data, the helices aligned perfectly with a narrow corridor through the local interstellar cloud, a corridor that would bring the shock front directly into the Sun's protective bubble. Independent analysis at multiple institutions revealed the same projection. The heliosphere would dimple, then collapse along a 22-degree arc, exposing Earth's magnetosphere to unfiltered galactic radiation for weeks. The corruption wasn't noise. It was the cleanest, most urgent scientific dataset ever received from beyond the solar system, and every line of it screamed prepare. Just as teams began modeling mitigation strategies, Voyager 2 fell silent for 11 agonizing minutes. Ground stations registered a total carrier dropout at 0914 UTC, synchronized across every receiver. Power levels were nominal. The spacecraft's attitude control remained stable. This was no internal shutdown. Something had intercepted the signal path, damping the transmission with surgical precision. Then, exactly 11 minutes later, the carrier returned, but the data stream had changed. The new packets contained Voyager's own recent cosmic ray counts, rearranged into binary images, stark silhouettes of expanding shock fronts engulfing planetary magnetospheres. The warning had been repeated, louder, clearer, and impossible to dismiss as glitch. Whatever had silenced the probe for those minutes had also ensured the message would not be lost. In secure briefings, updated trajectory models showed the incoming front altering course in response to solar wind variations, as if learning the heliosphere's shape and weaknesses. Code-named Veilbreaker by analysts, the disturbance behaved like a living plasma structure, accelerating through regions of higher neutral hydrogen density and decelerating in magnetic nulls. Its energy profile matched theoretical predictions for an interstellar coronal mass ejection. Yet its coherence and adaptive behavior suggested something far more organized. The corrupted transmissions weren't just data dumps. They were live telemetry from a spacecraft now acting as an early warning sentinel. Its very corruption, the only way left to override failing systems and force the message home. When engineers examined Voyager 2's flight data system logs after the second burst, they discovered lines of code that had never existed in the original 1970s architecture. Memory sectors long reserved for housekeeping routines now held compressed equations describing magnetohydrodynamic instabilities at scales of light days. The spacecraft had rewritten itself in real time, using residual power from its radioisotope thermoelectric generators to prioritize transmission of the warning over all other functions. No Earth command had authorized this. No radiation event could explain the precision. The only source consistent with the timing was an external electromagnetic pulse tuned to Voyager's exact receiver frequency, uploaded during the brief silence window. Voyager 2 was no longer solely a NASA probe. It had become a messenger under new instructions. Within hours, radio observatories from Chile to Hawaii were quietly retasked toward the predicted intercept vector. Encrypted channels buzzed with references to updated interstellar monitoring protocols. Procedures refined since the 2018 heliopause crossing, but never before activated at this scale. Satellite constellations in low Earth orbit began logging anomalous spikes in single-event upsets, exactly as the corrupted models had forecasted. The warning was already proving accurate, and with each passing day, the projected compression timeline shortened by hours. Voyager 2 had brought us notice, but the clock it revealed was ticking faster than anyone anticipated. Then a new layer emerged. For precisely 37 minutes, synchronized atomic clocks at timing laboratories in the United States, Germany, and Japan recorded microsecond drifts that cascaded through global positioning networks. The drifts matched the harmonic signature embedded in Voyager's corrupted packets, as if the incoming front had momentarily warped local space-time metrics. Plasma wave data from other deep space assets showed corresponding oscillations propagating inward at superluminal phase velocities, consistent with theoretical models of precursor waves from a relativistic shock. Physicists described it as a causality ripple, a distortion moving ahead of the main disturbance, like the pressure wave before a supersonic jet. The universe wasn't just sending danger, it was announcing its arrival in the language of physics itself. And finally, the most unsettling transmission arrived. This one contained no new science data. Instead, it replayed fragments of the 1977 Golden Record, human voices, whale songs, and Chuck Berry's guitar, but phase-shifted and interleaved with plasma density readings that painted a single stark image. Earth's magnetosphere shrinking under bombardment, auroras flaring equatorward, power grids collapsing in brilliant cascades of induced currents. The corruption had evolved into a visual prophecy, rendered in electromagnetic harmonics only modern AI could decode. Voyager 2 had used the last of its creative capacity to show us our future if we ignored the warning. The spacecraft wasn't dying quietly. It was screaming with everything it had left. As focus sharpened on the approaching front, archival infrared surveys from the 1990s were re-examined. A faint, cold anomaly previously dismissed as instrument noise now traced a logarithmic spiral path parallel to Voyager 2's trajectory since at least 1983. The object, or density knot, had maintained perfect station-keeping relative to the probe for over 4 decades, occasionally modulating local plasma in ways that matched the recent corruption signatures. It wasn't following Voyager. It was guiding the message, using the spacecraft as both antenna and witness. Scientists labeled it the Herald. Its existence transformed the warning from abstract projection to confirmed reality. Something ancient and vast in the interstellar medium had chosen Voyager 2 as its voice. Then the James Webb Space Telescope, quietly repointed under emergency directives, captured spectroscopic evidence of a vast filamentary structure glowing in forbidden emission lines of singly ionized helium and oxygen, stretching across 0.4 light-years and advancing at 68 kilometers per second. The structure's chemistry included short-lived isotopes that should have decayed eons ago, yet remained stable, suggesting artificial stabilization or continuous replenishment. No natural process explained the coherence. The filament was shepherding the shock front, shaping it like a sculptor guiding clay. Voyager 2's corrupted data had not only warned of the danger, it had revealed the hand behind it. Soon after, cybersecurity monitors across 5 continents detected phantom packets infiltrating fiber optic backbones and satellite uplinks. The packets carried no malware, no payload, only repeating sequences of the same prime number rhythms found in Voyager's first corrupted burst. They propagated through cloud infrastructure, power grid SCADA systems, and even medical imaging networks, embedding the warning at hardware level. Machines began syncing their internal clocks to the interstellar rhythm. To analysts, this was no longer communication. It was a simulation, the cosmos reaching through our own technology to ensure the message could never be silenced again. And then the background radiation itself changed. For 23 minutes, arrays in Antarctica and the Atacama recorded a total dropout of the cosmic microwave background's familiar hiss across a narrow frequency band. When the signal returned, its blackbody curve had shifted by 0.003 Kelvin, precisely the thermodynamic imprint predicted in Voyager's final corrupted models for a compressed heliosphere. The universe hadn't gone quiet. It had been tuned, recalibrated to carry the warning on the largest possible scale. Every photon, every particle, now seemed to whisper the same urgent truth. We launched Voyager 2 as a time capsule of hope, a golden record of who we were and where we lived. But what if it became something greater, a final act of defiance against cosmic indifference? What if the corruption we feared was actually the spacecraft's last gift? The only way left to force us to look up and prepare for the storm already gathering beyond the sun's reach. Because every distorted bite, every rewritten subroutine, every silenced interval points not to random decay, but to purpose. Something out there didn't just notice our little probe. It used it to reach us, to warn us, to demand we become the species capable of surviving what comes next. The question is no longer whether the warning is real. It is whether we are ready to heed it before the sky itself begins to burn with the proof. Will we rise to meet the challenge Voyager 2 fought across 48 years and 18 billion kilometers to deliver? Or will we turn away until the stars themselves force our attention? The choice belongs to every one of us, right now. Subscribe so you never miss the next revelation from the edge of everything we know. Drop your thoughts in the comments. How should humanity prepare for the storm Voyager just revealed? Share this with anyone who still believes we are alone or safe in the cosmos. And think deeply tonight about the fragile blue world spinning beneath that warning from the dark. Because somewhere out there, beyond the last light of our sun, Voyager 2 is still listening, still transmitting, still holding the line until we finally answer back.